Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC television podcast. I am your host, Trey Plutnicki, and I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you're enjoying Labor Day, the Labor Day weekend. 3 days. I know I did. Today is, of course, another Tuesday, another Hot Doc Tuesday, and I'll be sharing with you some of the documentaries that I've been watching. One of them, I would say, qualifies as a documentary, and the other definitely qualifies as a documentary. Also, at long last, finally, we have made it to the release of The Boys, and I'm just so happy to be here. I thought it was going to drop all at once. Didn't. So I was hoping today would be the day I could talk about, like, The Boys for an hour. And have 8 episodes of fodder to go off of, but today is not that day. I do have 3 episodes of fodder, and I greatly appreciate it. It is nice to see that. I don't know if I'd use nice. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see that Amazon is following the model that Apple and that Disney is using nowadays, and doing these kind of slow drip releases for content they already have in their back pocket. This is obviously in stark contrast to what Netflix has been doing for the past couple of years, and it's interesting to see that Amazon is following suit. I think they anticipated backlash from this. I really do. So they dropped 3 episodes on Friday of The Boys explicitly. And to contrast, they dropped the whole season in one day for the first season. So at least that's what I remember. I just remember binging it. I don't know if I binged it as soon as it came out, but I think they dropped it all at once. And now they're not doing that. So I'll have to wait until October to get a full kind of understanding of it is. But I will be talking about The Boys probably every Tuesday, and probably for a full segment. I like the show a lot, so I'll be talking about that today. So let's go over what we're chatting about. We're chatting about Catfish, which is a documentary, and we're chatting about Finding Frances, which is a documentary, and the series finale of Nathan For You. I mean, there's no real way to know if there is going to be a series finale of Nathan For You, because it feels like we are living in Nathan For You. At any given moment, I feel like Nathan Fielder can just pop up and say what's going on. So we're going to be talking about Finding Frances. We're going to be talking about Catfish, which is a documentary that kind of... It was interesting, because I know what the story of Catfish is like trying to tell, but what it ends up telling, and especially nowadays, it kind of chronicles a early internet, and more serves as like a documentary about early internet culture than it is about what it's actually about, you know? It's still a beautiful love story, and well, we'll get to it. We'll get to my thoughts. And then for the third segment, we're going to be talking about The Boys, the first 3 episodes of The Boys, and I very much looking forward to kind of exploring my thoughts on that. And for the final segment, if you stuck till the end, I'll do something a little different. I'm going to be talking about a movie that came out on Netflix. And because it came out on Netflix, I'm going to talk about it. It's TV-ish. It's a film by Charlie Kaufman. It recently came out the same day The Boys dropped. I watched it on Saturday, and I've been mulling it over, thinking about it. It was a beautiful film. It's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I think. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Yeah, that's what it's called. Written, directed by Charlie Kaufman of Being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind fame, which is my favorite movie. So I look forward to be talking about that. And that's going to be our show today. So stick around for the end for that. But now, let us talk about Finding Frances. Nathan Fielder's series finale and Nathan Fielder's kind of masterpiece, his magnum opus, if you will. Finding Frances, first and foremost, is I think it's a love story. It's like I don't know what you would call these things. It's like a searching documentary. There are a lot of like searching documentaries I found where you're finding like you're searching for an answer, or you're searching for something larger, or you're going on a journey. They're very popular, and I think what's like popular about it is like any of us can do this. Like if we follow a dream, it doesn't matter how much money it's going to take, you know? It's just it's very alluring. And it's something that Catfish and Finding Frances kind of have in common, which I am just realizing now. Finding Frances centers are it's a little difficult to explain if you haven't seen Nathan For You. So let me go over the premise again. I know I've gone over on some of my episodes what the premise of Nathan For You is, but let me reiterate what the premise is because it's just genius. Nathan Fielder is a business. I guess you would call him like a business guru. Okay, let's just call him that. He's a business guru that goes around the country and he helps small businesses with kind of wacky ideas. He follows this kind of he follows a formula, right? He goes into a small business, talks to the owner, pitches his wacky idea. The owner kind of is like, okay, we'll try it. And then he executes the plan, and it's like funny, okay? It's very awkward. It's very like cringy, but it's oh my gosh, it's hilarious. And sometimes he does stuff that is outside of that formula, but it still kind of follows like the rough structure. For example, he did a Claw of Shame episode where he subjected himself to like a absurdly dangerous stunt, which was he trained himself to escape from handcuffs, and if he didn't escape from these handcuffs in time, a claw would pull down his pants and expose himself in front of a bunch of children, and then he would be jailed as a sex offender in California for the rest of his life. So it's stuff like that where it's just like uselessly dumb. But when you are given a lot of money and you want to produce something uselessly dumb for entertainment, this is a perfect opportunity to do it. So now back to Finding Frances. In the show, this guy named Bill is someone that Nathan Fielder hired as part of a different small business scheme to impersonate Bill Gates. Okay? So he impersonates Bill Gates for like this movie that is supposed to like reel in business at some store, like convenience shop. So he plays Bill. He's a Bill Gates impersonator. Frances is the Bill Gates impersonator's like high school lover. And over the course of like the run of the show, ever since Bill met Nathan and Nathan met Bill, Nathan has had Bill on like podcasts, had him talk about stuff, whether it be about the show or his life, just had him on to chat. And throughout that, Nathan found out that Bill has this lost lover named Frances. And him talking about Frances with Bill and Bill pouring his heart out and saying like the worst thing that he ever did was go to LA to like get into show business because he missed out on marrying Frances because he loved her so much. It's like sad. And that's kind of like the love story part of it. I'm just now realizing there's a lot more in common with Catfish and Finding Frances than I thought. That's really funny. So Nathan and Bill go on this goose chase to find Frances. And all the while, Nathan has kind of been telling his story throughout the show. Because while the show may seem like it's about small businesses, it's really not. It's really about Nathan trying to find and desperately find a human connection. And whether that human connection be a friend, be a love interest, he is desperately trying to find someone that will love him and see him as an equal. And that is clear. A good example of this is in season 1. At the end of almost every episode, everybody that he talks to, he has like closing interviews and stuff. Everybody that he talks to at the end of the episode, he asks, so like after all this is done, like, do you think you want to hang out with me or something? And everyone, I don't know what he does to them off camera, where everyone unanimously always says no. And like, he's in character. And you start to think that he's in character, and he's very good at keeping in character for these like 22-minute segments. But it's unclear whether or not it's a character. Because, like, it's just so hard to explain. And especially talking about this as a documentary is even more difficult to explain. Because it's just like, is it a documentary if he's playing a character? You know? And I think it is. I'm having this struggle in like real time. So the reason why I bring this up is because in the documentary, I think he hires someone to go on a date with Bill, and it is a escort. Obviously, it is an escort. Well, not obviously, but it is an escort that he hires to go on a date with Bill for Bill to practice what it would be like to talk with Frances. Like all these small business antics that he's been doing throughout the show, they still are in this documentary, just not as like full force, you know, because there's no small business to help. He's just helping Bill. So he hires an escort, and then Nathan, over the course of like, it seems like months, is hiring this escort, like almost weekly. Like, it's wild. And he starts to like fall in love with her. And and she gets uncomfortable with the cameras, and he like brings up that he has like a Comedy Central show, and he starts to like love her and see her as a friend because this is like a first-time thing for Nathan, it appears, that he's hiring an escort, and it's the first human connection that he's had. And in a way, Nathan helping find Frances for Bill was not only a journey about what it means to be, for Bill, for his love life, but it's also like what it means to be human. And like searching for a connection. I would like to share a quote. I searched up the doc so I can get a hot quote from an article. Here's a quote that kind of encapsulates what it's about. And this quote comes at the very beginning and almost kind of like gives you like a taste test and sets up like what is the future. I couldn't tell if the search for Frances would amount to anything. This is at the beginning. So he's describing like this, finding Frances might be a lost cause at the end of the day. I was starting to wonder if Bill was just a bored old man looking for an adventure to keep him busy, or maybe when you prioritize your career for so long, you just become desperate for any kind of human connection. And if that doesn't describe Nathan for you, I don't know what does. I mean, the dude cares about his career, obviously. Like, he's helping businesses left and right. but he definitely prioritizes his ability to work over having a connection with someone. It's really interesting. Now, one of the best scenes in this documentary is the final scene with Bill. They find Frances. Bill wants to like break up Frances's marriage. They find out she's married. Oh man, I need to watch it again. I just watched it and I need to watch it again. So he finds Frances. They drive to her home, right? And he calls her. He gets her cell phone and he calls her outside her home. And Nathan's like, "Do you want to go in? Like, do you want to go in or do you want to call beforehand?" And Bill calls Frances. They like do this weird like catching up thing that I'm sure you've had phone calls like that, or you do like this weird catching up thing, like, "Hi, how are you? Like, what have you been up to?" But you're like kind of dodging what the point of the call is, and it's clear that it's not like a catch up call, or else they would have prefaced it with that. And he's just talking on the phone, and he talked on the phone. I think Nathan said it was like an hour. And they're sitting outside Frances's house. This is the moment Bill has been waiting for, to meet Frances. And they don't go inside. He doesn't even go to the door. He's right outside the house. And he doesn't even go to the door. And it's like this Waiting for Godot moment, In the play Waiting for Godot never shows up because the play is about waiting for Godot. You're waiting for a person to show up. And Finding Frances is our modern day Waiting for Godot. It's beautiful. It's just so well crafted. And not only that, but I mean, that's what it's about. Like, that's what the show's about. It's about finding a human connection and like approaching a near miss. It's so unbelievably beautiful. And that's kind of what I like about these, like, the best documentaries are the ones that like are small world documentaries, like Catfish is phenomenal. Like documentaries that are just a moment, that are just like about a person, and it doesn't really matter, but like it teaches you about what it means to be a human. Like, I think that's like the best kind of documentary. And I think Finding Frances is definitely up there. High recommend. Every documentary that I talk about on the show is a high recommend for me. So yeah. So that's Finding Frances. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about Catfish for a little bit, and then that'll be the end of Hot Doc Tuesday. And if you stick around till the end, I'll be completely breaking form and talking about a movie. But it came out on a TV streaming platform, so I want to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC podcast. I am your host, once again, Trey Plutnicki, and we're going to be talking about Catfish. Now, this documentary came out in 2010. I'm not watching new docs here. I'm not scratching, like, new ground here. It's an old doc. It's a decade old at this point. And it seems older, Because, so my frame of reference in terms of, like, when HD became truly mainstream, because I remember talking, like, the conversation surrounding 4K now was happening around HD in like 2008 or like 2006. Everyone's like, yeah, right, everyone's going to have an HD TV, much less all the studios are going to switch to all HD cameras. Like, please. And then, lo and behold, here we are, and everyone's like, nobody's going to be using 4K cameras, much less 4K TVs in every house. Please. Here we are. So, my frame of reference is Survivor, right? So, season 16, which was Survivor Micronesia, was the last Survivor season to be in standard definition. The first Survivor season to be in high def was season 17, which was filmed in, oh man, oh I know this, come on. Oh, come on, bring it in. It was filmed in 2008, I believe. And aired in 2008. So that is like kind of like my mark for when HD was happening. Because season 20, which was in 2010, definitely aired in all HD, and that's when this doc was filmed. And this doc was filmed on like these cheap camcorders, but honestly it was probably filmed in like 2007 or 2008 or something like that, and then they just had to make all the footage work and like tell an effective story, you know? So let's get into it. Catfish came out in 2010. It pretty much invented a word. Like, it invented a phrase, which is so sick. Like, I want to do that. It invented the term catfish, which is so crazy. And I'll get to that at the end of the segment. So let's talk about it. The documentary starts with a reluctant documentary subject talking to his friend, and they own a production company together. They take photos for dancers. They take videos for dancers. It's, you know, why else would you just have cameras hanging around? Like, nobody really had like a really high quality camera back then, you know, or like high quality audio equipment. Nobody just had it. So it starts with them. It starts with a reluctant subject. His name is Liv, I think, or Niv, Siv, something like that. I literally just watched it. I just watched the documentary. But it focuses on him, and he's having a conversation where he got a reply about one of his pictures that a 8-year-old girl started drawing his pictures. And not drawing, but painting. Like, beautiful use of, like, color and beautiful use of, like, structure and imitation in these paintings from photograph. It's gorgeous, and it's coming from a 8-year-old girl, and the 8-year-old girl is sending emails and sending texts to this guy, and they're having like a little correspondence, and pretty soon, that little girl's name is Abby. Pretty soon, Abby's family starts coming in, right? Angela, who is Abby's mom, I believe that's her name. She starts calling on the phone with. Calling on the phone with, I think his name is Neve. I think something like that. Neve. Calling him on the phone, and you know, just the whole runaround, making sure that he's not like. It seems like checking in and like babysitting, and like him being like, "Oh, you're such like a great influence," you know. Like, mom is a great influence, and he himself is a great influence for being able to find like Abby has a muse now, kind of. Like, I'm going to paint your photographs, and that's going to be a vehicle for my painting. And the correspondence goes like that. And then as it keeps going, he keeps diving deeper and deeper into their family. And there's this girl named Megan, who is Abby's half-sister. And Megan is, in his words, quote-unquote, hot. So he starts like kind of dating Megan, and he has like phone calls with Megan and stuff, and he's like talking to her, and they kind of start a relationship. And for 2010, this is like pre-Tinder, like online dating kind of, or like online dating is mainstream. So this is a little unorthodox. And when they started the documentary, they were kind of chronicling not necessarily that this was sketchy, but more so like I think they felt like there was something there with Abby, you know? Like, oh my God, we're going to be chronicling the early muse of this young painter named Abby, and it'll be just like super cool. So as the doc goes on, as Neve dives deeper and deeper into Abby's family and Angela's family, and this is all mostly through Facebook and email, he starts to, there was a point where he was like, oh, let's meet up in Colorado, because I'm doing a shoot in Colorado. They live in Michigan. He's flying in from New York. Like, it'll be a nice, like, vacation, you know? He goes out to Colorado, and they don't make it. And they start sifting, you know? Like one does. Sifting through profiles on Facebook, and just like, oh, they like do like covers and stuff. And he's like, wow, they have like a great voice. Like they have like covers of songs, and it's like, oh, they have a great voice, like killer music. It's cool. And then he Google searches, and he finds a video that is eerily similar to the song he just listened to. He's like, what? He's like, what? Wait a minute. Okay. So there are more songs in this profile. It's like, okay, maybe that's like a fluke. Maybe they just sound alike. And the next song is the same. So I think you see where I'm going with this. What we know today as the term catfish is what was happening to Neve right here. He was being catfished. And skipping to the end of the doc, the like way it's described is it's like apparently when cod would travel from overseas, like from China or something, or like to China, they would put a catfish, or the cod would die, and the skin would turn to mush, and they just wouldn't stay alive. But they started putting catfish in the tank, so the cod would stay alive and stay agile, because if they stopped moving, they would turn to mush. So a catfish is described to this guy as someone that keeps you on your toes. It's a catfish, and they're good. It's good to be kept on your toes. Some of you may know that there is a television show called Catfish on MTV. It is made by the same guys, and spin-offs have been made, and like celebrities have been put in, and yada yada yada. But I just think it's really cool that these guys like literally single-handedly invented a like terminology. Like, that's so sick. So eventually they do meet. And eventually it turns out that Angela, Abby's mom, is actually the one that's been like painting everything and has been talking as Megan and like sexting this dude who's like years younger than her. And obviously she's super embarrassed by it, because they visit her. They go to her town and like kind of confront her and like surprise her. And I don't think she expected like her life to be crashed in the matter of weeks. It's something. It's really something, and it's really sad. I watched a lot of very sad stuff. The Boys was the only light this weekend of my viewing. No, it's really sad. I mean, it chronicles their relationship, and it chronicles the life of someone that's like kind of she's lonely. She has a beautiful heart, and that is evident in the way she treats her two mentally handicapped sons from a guy's first marriage that she married. His name is Vince, I believe. So she married that guy, and he had two mentally handicapped sons, and she takes as care of them as if they are her own, as well as Abby, who is the son of Vince and herself. And I think she was just lonely. She took the helm and scraped the identities together of about 16 people to try to effectively fool this guy as to be his muse. Which is just so... If it wasn't so crazy, it'd be sweet. But, like, you can tell that she just is... It's just so kind, you know? It's so sad. It really is very sad. But, like, you can't... Like, it feels so hopeless, you know? Like, you can see Neve is, like... Like, at one point, he asks her to do Megan's voice. The person that's been lying to him. Like, do the person's voice that I've come to know for the past, like, 9 months in correspondence. And as she's doing it, she goes, "Your eyes are telling me that I'm hurting you. Like, it feels like I'm hurting you right now." It's just really sad. That sigh is just a sigh of sadness. So they go visit, the three of them. Go visit, say hi, you know, and kind of expose. And one of the guys is like, "We're not going to go in there and just, like, blow up her life and, like, be malicious about it. Like, you need to handle it with tact. Like, you deserve to have this information and stuff." I don't know. It's so good. It's such a good. It's such a good documentary, and the fact it's from 2010. Once again, it has this, like, historian type vibe to it, you know, and that's something that I dig a lot, like internet historian, because that's something that I'm really interested in. But anyway, regardless. That's all pretty much I have to say about Hot Doc Tuesday. This was a short Hot Doc Tuesday this time, or at least it felt short. I felt like I had a lot to talk about. So next up, once again, if you have any more documentaries that you want me to watch, I'm down to watch them. Down for some viewer suggestions. So next up, we're going to be talking about The Boys, Season 2, the first 3 episodes. There's a lot to cover, so I'll be my best to be brief. And then if you stick around to the end, movie time, baby. Netflix movie. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Plutnicki, and we've reached my favorite part of the episode. It is the episode where I talk about The Boys. Finally, The Boys. Such a good... So, when I saw Season 1, I was like, this is it. We've done it. So for those of you who don't know, The Boys is a superhero television show, which is, one would think, be like, bore. There's so many, like, there are tons. Get that out of here. But what it does is it satirizes the superhero genre, which is just fantastic. Because in a time where superheroes movies and TV shows seem like a oversaturated market, it's nice to have a refreshing show that kind of, like kicks it in the nuts a little bit. So The Boys is a satire on the superhero genre, where the Avengers, which are known as the Seven, are movie stars. They have actual superpowers. Superheroes exist in this world. They are owned by a corporation that just shovels them as content, to make money. And they are sociopaths, like unanimously, all of them. I mean, when you have powers like a god, of course you're going to be a sociopath. So the person who plays Superman, whose name is Homelander, is actually insane. And like, when you're a god and have the power to like destroy, it's scary. It's a little scary. So that's pretty much what The Boys is. Now, in The Boys, there are pretty much parallels to every Marvel villain and every DC villain that Marvel hero and DC hero that you can think of. Like, there is a Aquaman, there's a Flash, there's a Superman, there's let me think. Oh, there's more. There's so much more. There's like a Thor. There's a... Who else is on it? So the people on the Seven are this guy named... I think his name is Black Noir, which is like... he doesn't take off his mask and he doesn't speak. And he just hangs out. There's Homelander, who is Superman. There's the Deep, who is Aquaman. There is Translucent, who is... His power is like invisibility. I'm not sure who that kind of parallels with, but he dies very early in the first season, and I'm going to be talking about the second season. There's Starlight, which is like the newest member of the Seven. There's there's Maeve, who's like Wonder Woman essentially. And there's who else? Who else is there? I think that's it. I think I covered everybody. And then there's A-Train, who's the Flash. The show's incredible. But it doesn't follow those people. It doesn't follow those sociopaths. Who it follows is it follows these people who are trying to kill the Supes. They call them Supes. It follows these people called the Boys. And the show follows the Boys, obviously. That's why the show's called The Boys. The Boys want to kill the superheroes. One way or another, they've been done wrong by the Supes, the quote-unquote Supes. For instance, the show really centers around two of the Boys. Those two people being Billy the Butcher, or Billy Butcher, or however you want to say it, and Huey. Huey is the newcomer. Huey's like, he's the big baby. He's the big old baby of the group. He's probably like mid-20s, I want to say, or late 20s. His girlfriend was killed by A-Train, who is the Flash superhero. The way that it was an accident, but the way that she was killed was she was ran into. It's a horribly bloody, kind of gory scene, but yeah, essentially the Flash ran into Huey's girlfriend, and she exploded, like, in front of her. The show's not for the weak-stomached, the faint-hearted, the soft-skinned. It is it is brutal in its honesty of the tropes of the genre, and it's hard to describe. It's blunt. It's very blunt and to the point, and the gore is, in a way, comments on superhero movies in a way that is only possible with this much gore, So Huey was wronged that way. I don't quite know how the other two people on The Boys is Frenchie and Mother's Milk. I don't quite know how Frenchie was wronged. I don't really remember, but he's like a weapons kind of builder and stuff. He's like the tinkerer of the group, the engineer, if you will. And then Mother's Milk is he's like a softie. He's a big softie. He just wants to spend time with his family, and he got roped up into all this, And Butcher is kind of like the main character. It's between Butcher and Huey, I would say, it bounces back. And Butcher was wronged by Homelander, Superman, because he had an affair with Butcher's wife, or something like that. It's kind of fuzzy about like what the actual facts are on Billy the Butcher's story. And we're getting them piece by piece. So I think you're caught up. The boys are killing the Supes because the Supes have no accountability, essentially. And the boys are just like vigilantes. And while it's dangerous to like be killing Supes because the Supes are pretty much gods and they're in the public eye, it is what's right in their eyes. And that's why they're doing it. Huey, things are complicated a bit for Huey because Huey has a crush on Starlight, who is one of the members of the Seven, and they have like a romantic history in one way or another. So I think you're all caught up. So the first 3 episodes of season 2, I'm just going to assume that you've seen season 1 at this point, and I'll just talk about my feelings about season 2. It's great. It's everything I wanted. It also does a good job about just starting at the good part and cutting out all of the like the wishy-washy like relationship nonsense, you know? We just get to the point. Like it starts with the boys are in hiding. Butcher is nowhere to be found quite yet, and it doesn't bore us with the details of how he will be found. We'll find that out later. And it makes it clear that it wants to say that. Like Butcher was somewhere and then he got home, and we'll find out how he got home later and what his like story is. Right? Because if we remember at the end of season 1, he just woke up in and saw his wife and then left. Becca, I think is her name. I think that's her name. Anyway, it cuts right to the point, and that's fantastic. The action is just as good. We didn't really get anything too horrible or too like action-y, really, until the last episode, like the end of the last episode, which I thought was fantastic. I thought it's great that they gave us like the first 3 episodes, and we're like, all right. We're not dropping it all at once, so let's give them the most action-packed scene of the first 3 episodes to finish them off, because that's what they deserve. And I feel like people would have complained if it ended with episode 2 or episode 3 or yada, yada, yada. And I read an article somewhere saying the rest of the season's really good, but 1 through 3 were really good. Like, I liked 1 through 3 a lot. So the new hero that's introduced this season is Stormfront, which by her name, if you don't know, Stormfront is like a neo-Nazi forum for alt-right ideas. And her name is Stormfront, and she is really racist. She like just kills for sport for no reason. It's brutal. It's very brutal. And we see that at the end of episode 3, but it's like she's like brutally honest. Like she's like one of those brutally honest women where it's just like that. It's kind of a trope in television where she's like, oh man, she's being a jerk to everybody. She is powerful, you know? And it kind of gives like a bad name to women, I feel like. Because it's like, you can be confident and like speak your mind and stuff and not be a jerk about it. But she was being a jerk about it. But I think she knows what her power is, and like she'll use it, so like you don't want to mess with her. Like that type of thing. But she's like crazy powerful. And also crazy racist. So I think they're going to try to kill her pretty soon here. So that's how episode 3 ended. Huey kind of has this moment of like complete shell shock. And they're also exploring these themes of like Huey is going to be the one that saves everybody. Like they're kind of opening it up to that. In the very first episode, Huey was like, I want to be the guy where you're like, wow, I didn't know he could do that. And he did it. And in episode 3, we had this moment where Huey was just shell-shocked and ready to give up and ready to just end it all. And, you know, I think I think that was his, like, mid-Act 2 crisis that we saw. And I think there's going to be, like, a real, like, Bruce Wayne climbing up the cave feel for this last part of The Boys of the season. And by last part, I mean the next 5 episodes. Yeah, there's a lot of time for, like, character development and stuff like that. So, Homelander is just as cruel as he was in season 1, which I'm digging. He killed a blind dude, like literally crushed his skull. That was crazy. Someone that was supposed to be in the 7 and literally crushed his skull for no reason. No reason at all. What else happened? More development with Maeve, who is the Wonder Woman character. I thought her story in the first season was fantastic, and I'm so glad that they're continuing it. I'm also really glad that they're kind of bringing us that the supervillain is really this, like, the Vought CEO. That's really what I want. Like, that's sick, you know? Like, all the heroes are villains, you know? But the Vought CEO, he's the ringleader, you know? It's cool. I think what they're exploring and what they're setting up is really neat. Super terrorists are just a sick idea, and also, like, a realistic idea. Like, if the government had control of making superheroes and the public was like, I don't think we need superheroes anymore, they're getting kind of scary, like, I feel like they could kill me, they invent a threat and create a threat to justify the size of their superheroes and the powers of their superheroes, which I think is commentary on kind of the U.S. military in the first place. So that's super dope. I like how it does more and tells a better story than a lot of the superhero franchises that we see being mass produced. I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm really excited for what goes on further. I'm excited for what's going to happen next. I think, like I said, I think there's going to be some sort of Huey redemption arc that's going on, because he was, like, super spent. When he was in that whale, he's done. He was done in that whale. So I'm excited to know what you guys think. Please keep me updated on Boys stuff. I love The Boys. It's great. It's a great show. Keep me updated. That's all I have to talk about right now. I will be giving, like, episode by episode stuff on Tuesday shows, so please look forward to that, and I'll be discussing, like, the episode, and I'll probably be discussing it more in depth, because when you have 3 hours of content, it's hard to sort of talk about, like, what happened in the episode and what happens next, you know? So I'll be talking about more in detail from now on. But thank you guys for watching. We are coming up on our last segment of the show, where I talk about a movie on the television podcast, but it's on Netflix, so it counts. So please stick around, and I will be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Trey Plutnicki, and we have reached the end of our show. Boo! Boo, hiss, boo. All right, everybody, calm down. We are going to talk about new movie on Netflix by Charlie Kaufman, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So this movie, it tackles some, I would say, touchy subjects, but I think the way it tackles them is beautifully and carefully. It's obviously not it handles suicide, and it handles it in a very kind of tactful way, albeit a bleak way. And it kind of gives us a peek into the synapses of a human brain. So I'll just give you the chance to pause the movie, or pause the podcast, and just watch the movie, please. And come back and listen if you would like. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me on the GSMC television movie Netflix podcast. So, I think when... So I went through I forget what the training is exactly called, but it's like a suicide prevention training. And there are a lot of signs that you need to look for, especially in media, to see if they're doing a tactful job in order to handle how they talk about suicide. Now, in this movie, the word suicide, the words "I'm going to take my own life" or anything are not mentioned. The only mention of suicide is really kind of brought up in the context of the girl, who is unnamed, ending her relationship with the guy whose name is Jake, who is kind of the subject of the movie. And she frequently thinks, "I'm thinking of ending things." So in the trailer was kind of pitched as like a thriller, you know? I would say the same about like The Vivitch and Midsummer, where they're kind of pitched as like horror thrillers, like type thing. And I would call Midsummer, like I would probably call Hereditary a pretty conventional horror movie at this point. It's more of a family drama, but I think it did bend to the rules of horror. But I think Midsummer does a better job about being an art film and being like kind of wrapped in metaphor than Hereditary does. I feel like Hereditary does follow a more conventional formula. So when thinking about I'm thinking of ending things, I think I read a couple interviews, and Charlie Kaufman makes it obscenely clear that this movie is a metaphor. He makes it clear from the beginning. You don't necessarily know what the metaphor is about, but it's about that. It's about taking your own life. And with a name like I'm thinking of ending things, it becomes clear what the movie is about. But it doesn't become clear until like maybe the third act of the movie, you know? Because throughout the movie, we are seeing scenes of the same janitor. And you kind of like, I kind of assumed that Jake was the janitor, you know? Because you just hear about stuff. But what is amazing and what is really happening is we're kind of like floating through this poor, lonely janitor named Jake's brain. You know? He's wrapped in memories. It's like, I don't know, man. It's sad. It's pretty sad. He's cleaning the school at night, and he's just reflecting on his past during his shift. So, yeah. I mean, it's bleak. Like, the movie's not fun to watch. And this was a conversation I had where it's like some media is not meant to be fun. Like, you're not meant to consume it as fun because the end product isn't supposed to be fun like a lot of stuff is supposed to be in entertainment. It's an art film. It's like you don't look at a painting and be like, man, I had such a great time looking at that painting. It was sick. You don't do that. You look at a painting to think, you know? I'm taking these pauses and leaving these thoughts because I think the movie does such a good job about like just like the movie felt like displaying visual synapses, you know? There's a concept called the thought palace, you know? I think a lot of people have heard about this. Thought palace. It's this concept where you can put your memories in an estate. Okay? You put them in an estate. And you put each thing you want to memorize into a specific room, and you build a thought palace so you can have a better memory. Like my pet Pluto is the dining room, you know, because he loves to eat. My basement is my pet goldfish. I don't know why everything got to be a pet, but my basement's my pet goldfish because it would always flood. My living room is my, like, grandparents or something, right? And I think, especially with the visiting of the parents, and I think it's reflecting on Jake's parents, because this is all in Jake's mind, and it's coming from the direction of the girl for some reason. But I think the visiting of the parents and the visiting of the house is kind of like a perfect example of kind of tearing through time and tearing through Jake's thought palace of how he stores all of this information. Like the dinner with the parents is always at the table. His paintings are downstairs. What is especially interesting is his memory is what could have been. You know? It's what he wanted to be. You wonder whether some of the stuff that's happening is true or not, or it's just how he's remembering it. And it's probably just how he's remembering it. But you have to take, like, the context of what's happening as it was true. Like, he went on a long car ride with his girlfriend at one point to see his parents. And his girlfriend was probably less than happy to be there. But that's how he needs to remember it. And he's stuck at this, like, dead-end job as a janitor now. And the wealth of knowledge that he has as his younger self is present, is there. And he wishes he has it. It's present in his memory. And the wealth of knowledge that his once real, now fiction girlfriend is there. Man, it's like, yeah, it's definitely one of the most thought-provoking movies I've watched. And while watching it, you don't really think about what the movie's about. At least for me, mental health is definitely like a touchy subject for me, and it's something that you definitely don't want to mess around with. But I mean, it does a really good job of telling the story. It also tells the story of, like, it also tells it tells the same story inside of the frame of Oklahoma. So the musical. So I'm a big fan of Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma a lot. So the framing of Oklahoma kind of gives me a really good understanding of this movie, because at the end of the movie he sings Lonely Room, and I know what the character Judd is feeling in that moment. And obviously Charlie Kaufman has to finagle a reason as to why Lonely Room is being sung, and I imagine it is a part of the broader metaphor of what is about to happen. So let me talk about Oklahoma and the themes of Oklahoma, too. Oklahoma also, not the sequel to Oklahoma. That'd be sick. So, kind of what's going on. So the Dream Ballet, specifically, is inside Laurie's imagination. And this, I think, is a misdirection. It's a misdirection that this movie is taking place all inside of the girlfriend's head, when in reality it is taking in place of Jake's head, of like old Jake's head, not like middle-aged 30-year-old Jake's head. So there's that. But it also, so it does signal that it is taking place in someone's head, though, which is beautifully done. A beautifully done misdirect. Even though it's not quite a twist, it's still kind of a twist. And the Dream Ballet chronicles Lori seeing that she has an option in front of her, Curly, who's the main love interest in Oklahoma. However, she is worried about Judd, who is the villain of Oklahoma, snatching her up and, like, doing something really nasty to her. A reasonable fear based on Judd's past and Judd's history. So there is a dream ballet sequence at the end of the movie, which I think is beautiful. I love some good dancing in a film. I love some good theatrics in the film. Now, Jake singing Lonely Room at the end gives us a perspective that Jake is Judd in this story. That his girlfriend, it was probably in the movie and like his memories, is probably the last girlfriend he had, and the dying hope of escape that he ruined. Because I think that's what Judd's feeling in Oklahoma. I've always had the impression, like, justice for Judd, you know? He didn't do anything wrong except maybe kill people, but and want to kill people, but he kind of gets goaded into it. He almost gets bullied into his misbehavior by Curly. Curly's not a nice guy. He may be the hero, but he isn't a nice guy. And the Oklahoma that recently recently closed on Broadway, the most recent revival, kind of explores the idea that Judd doesn't get killed by Curly at the end. He kind of does it to himself. He wants to find reason to do it. You know? And I think Jake is the Judd of his story. And he sees that. And I mean, he's such a fan of musical theater, Jake is. He recognizes that. And I think that's why that's playing in his memory. So what he's saying in Lonely Room, and what Judd is saying in Lonely Room, before we talk about Jake, is Judd is like, I can't keep toiling in this miserable existence of people telling me what I am. And I can't keep toiling in this miserable existence of me telling myself that I am stuck here in this lonely room. Jake, long pause. Jake, on the other hand, is probably feeling the exact same way. He is stuck. This is at the end of the movie. These are like the last moments. You know? It's a tough one, you know? It's a tough one. And you think at the beginning, like, Jake has like this ESP and can read the girl's mind. But in reality, it's the girl is who Jake is, you know? The thing at the Terrytown or whatever it's called, that is also Jake's mind. You know? The girl saying, you can stay here, you know? You can stay in this memory. And you don't have to go forward in time, because I know what happens forward in time. And the girl keeps trying to tell Jake, like, I'm thinking of ending things, over and over. The girl is desperately trying to break through to Jake about his own ideas that he's having. It's just so... It just hits somewhere. It's meaningful. You know? I give the movie a complete 10 out of 10. It's, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's our show. Thanks for listening to the GSMC Television Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Plenicki. If you would like, give us a follow on Facebook, give us a follow on Spotify, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out. If you want to help us out even more, leave a review. That is super awesome. And if you want to leave a comment, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you want to send us any feedback, please do so through reviews and stuff like that. That is really helpful. Past that, thank you so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. I will see you Friday. Take care.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.